Formula One in the USA currently hosts more F1 races than any other country on the calendar, even surpassing Italy. But in the context of Formula One, the US often stands for something else entirely, an unbearably awkward social spectacle. I swear, every time F1 races in the US, it's almost always guaranteed to be a cluttered, messy cringe fest, unlike anything you'll see from a race weekend. And yet, that's precisely why I love it. We've witnessed celebrities making absolute fools of themselves, some of the most passionate flag-waving in F1 history, wheel-to-wheel racing that could give you a heart attack, and the memes we get are just golden. US races deliver so much happening that you'll either witness something so cringe-inducing or so thrilling you'll be telling your grandchildren about it. You won't believe the absolute spectacle that unfolds when F1 hits American soil, and why some of the wildest moments actually make them unforgettable. In this video, I want to explore the 3 prominent US tracks where Formula One has raced, and the sheer chaos that ensues every single time. What better place to start than with the US Grand Prix in Austin, Texas? This is probably the only somewhat normal race in the US, but because this is America we're talking about, normal still implies a complete circus. Austin has consistently delivered thrills. While it wasn't the first time F1 raced in America, it was one of the first US tracks to join the modern calendar. The Circuit of the Americas is beautifully crafted to give us the most heart-stopping overtakes. Since its first race in 2012, we've seen Lewis Hamilton's brilliant battle with Sebastian Vettel for the win, a very late move where he pulled past to take the lead. In 2015, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton's bromance famously fell apart. In 2017, Max Verstappen pulled off a stunning, albeit illegal, overtake on Kimi Räikkönen, only to receive a penalty and lose his podium. Then, in 2018, Kimi Räikkönen secured his final career win. And in 2022, George Russell nearly caused a major incident. However, like every other US race weekend, Austin isn't perfect, largely due to the celebrities who seem to ruin everything. At every US race, a swarm of celebrities plagues the grid, and frankly, most people absolutely despise it. Half the time, these celebrities have no idea what's going on, they clearly attend for clout, and F1 continually posts about them on social media as if everyone is supposed to care. Spoiler alert, we don't. What annoys me most is that they make genuinely passionate celebrities look bad. We've seen Jeremy Clarkson, who always looks delightfully unhinged while filming a car show, Rowan Atkinson, who genuinely knows his racing, Tom Cruise, who would probably skydive with an F1 car, and Tom Holland with his passionate flag waving. Then there's Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, waving the checkered flag at the US Grand Prix, looking like he's either trying to control the heaviest fishing rod or is simply bewildered. In the US Grand Prix, we also had Martin Brundle attempting to interview Megan Thee Stallion, only for some blonde guy to block Martin, trying to act tough. I don't know who that individual was, but if he's watching this video, I have 3 things to tell him: no one knows who you are, no one cares about you, and don't try to look tough when you clearly aren't. Thankfully, at least the memes make up for all the flaws of the US Grand Prix. We've seen George Russell looking at us as if we've stolen all his baby oil, Oscar Piastri's iconic reactions, and Daniel Ricciardo, from his Red Bull days, always bringing the party when he visits Texas. He will be missed. Austin is also the US track packed with the most passionate fans, especially around the 2010s when F1 wasn't as popular in America. While that has significantly changed, with more people attending just for the scene, Austin still remains a relatively action-packed, somewhat normal Grand Prix. This is because the bar for chaos when it comes to F1 racing in the USA has already been set impossibly high by Miami. Formula One in Miami, this is my home, the best city in the world, and the whole world is here. The Miami Grand Prix is easily considered one of the most chaotic of all time. So, David, have you got a minute for us? That's the second time he's blanked me down there. Yeah, I mean, look at this. So, what do you do on social media? Miami is an absolute mess, one of the most challenging places F1 has ever raced. And why did F1 decide to race here? Money. What makes Miami one of the most chaotic and worst F1 tracks is something I call the triple CS, controversial, cringy, and a cluster. The worst one among these three is the cringe. What's up, America? Let's bring that energy. Make some noise. Holy, that was bad. I have never heard a quieter response after someone says, make some noise. That was painful. And what even is this? An entire stage in the middle of the track, cheerleaders, a full-blown orchestra. Are we trying to see a race or the soundtrack for Interstellar? If you showed Miami and all its shenanigans to an F1 fan from the 1990s, or even me back in 2012, I would have had a big, fat aneurysm. And don't even get me started with the celebrities again. F1 family, fun, good energy, for real. Okay, we'll grab him in a minute. Hi, they didn't want us, F1, but God did. That's right. These are not real people. DJ Khaled went to Miami in 2023 in support of Lance Stroll. You can already tell there's something amiss with him from that point. He then continued to dig a deeper hole for himself when he recorded a video of him changing tires on an F1 car, where he didn't even do it correctly. Oh my god, bro, oh hell no, man, what the? Get your act together. And for those saying he did it like it was NASCAR, it's not even NASCAR, because NASCAR uses single bolts now. So, this guy just seemed clueless. I find it so funny when these celebrities are asked who their favorite driver is, and their go-to answer is always Lewis Hamilton. How big a fan of Formula One are you? Lewis Hamilton. I'm not really with the team in particular, but I'm definitely a Lewis Hamilton fan. Oh, we love having Lewis and all the drivers. Miami, any two drivers in the paddock, put them in the ring together, who do you think is going to win? I feel like Lewis Hamilton has hands. I don't know. This guy has no clue what he's talking about, so he just says Lewis every time. Jake Paul, ladies and gentlemen, the guy known for controversial boxing matches. Who's he going to fight next? Eddie Jordan. Jos Verstappen. Not going to lie, that might actually be a pretty good matchup. With celebrities comes not just cringe, but also controversy. In 2023, there was huge drama again between Martin Brundle and Cara Delevingne, where she didn't want to answer a question from him, so Martin subtly called her out. Everybody has to speak on the grid, but, you know, hey, I'm not hearing anything. Okay, alright. Well, I'm sure it would have been extremely interesting. This didn't happen in Miami, though, but it just shows the general problems with celebrities. There were also similar instances with other celebrities where it was just so awkward. Oh, what's the question? Because no, it doesn't really matter. But the most controversial moment was in 2024, when Donald Trump visited Miami in support of McLaren. As you can probably tell, this erupted the F1 community. However, not for the reasons you might think. When Trump visited Miami and met Lando Norris, people weren't mad at him or McLaren. People were actually mad at the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem. You see, a few years ago, he controversially banned F1 drivers from making any political statements, whether on social media, on track, or elsewhere. But despite that rule, he continues to make political statements on his Instagram account, and his appearance with Trump in Miami highlighted an insane double standard. Honestly, all these things are such a shame for the Miami track, because sometimes the races can actually be pretty good, which brings me to C3, cluster. F1 first raced in Miami in 2022, and while it wasn't as exciting as we expected, we had Lando Norris spinning like a top. Then, in 2023, Max Verstappen made a comeback drive from P9, dominating his teammates. In 2024, we saw Sergio Perez nearly torpedoing into Max, Kevin Magnussen crashing into Logan Sargent, and Lando Norris's first win. So, often the races can actually be quite decent. It's just the gimmicks and celebrities that overshadow everything else, making the racing feel like a side quest. And don't even get me started on the tickets. The cheapest 3-day ticket for the Miami Grand Prix is around €940, compared to Silverstone at €600 and Australia's €300 for a 4-day ticket. But honestly, these gimmicks and prices can still seem pretty tame, because despite how horrible this is, it doesn't get as bad as Las Vegas. Las Vegas, overkill, expensive, but insane. That's the best sentence I can think of to describe Formula One in Vegas. If there was a race that had the perfect balance between entertainment and chaos, it would have to be this. When F1 first returned to Vegas in 2023, we were immediately slapped with an overkill amount of events. There was an entire hour of live shows before the race. This was actually quite something. Then the drivers were introduced through elevating platforms where they had no idea what to do, and Carlos Sainz just kept smiling and waving. Then we had Sergio Perez looking like a lost child, and of course, the giant sphere, which I was severely disappointed by. They could have displayed so many amazing visuals on there, and yet they chose the Google Chrome logo. But despite all this luxury, they couldn't even bother to fix a drain cover that Carlos Sainz hit in free practice. The worst part is that Ferrari had to pay for all the car's damages, and they also received a 10-place grid penalty for changing broken parts of their car, which, mind you, was not even their fault. But thankfully, the race was great despite initial doubts. The Vegas track worked beautifully. Turn 1 was immediate carnage. Lando Norris unleashed his inner Verstappen, and the long straights allowed drivers to pull off amazing moves, with Charles Leclerc doing a brilliant last-minute dive bomb on Perez. After the race, it was back to the overkill events. The drivers had a whole limo ride in a Rolls-Royce, where Perez again looked like he didn't know why he was there. But let's fast forward to Vegas in 2024, and all I can say is that this statement still remains true. However, unlike last year, there has been a huge downgrade on the events, thankfully. But there's still an equal amount of madness going on. Sergio Perez was able to redeem himself with Bruce Buffer this year. He finally knew what to do when his name was announced. The Sphere was playing clips as usual. But most importantly, there was apparently a strong smell of marijuana across the entire track, with drivers seemingly getting high in their cars. This only happens in Vegas, I swear to God. Franco Colapinto and Sergio Perez were the two drivers who told the media about this whole marijuana situation. And you know what makes this so much funnier? Both of them fumbled in qualifying. Even Max seemed remarkably relaxed. But, as usual, to make up for the shenanigans, the race was insane. The first few laps were amazing. We had like 7 cars glued to each other. George Russell kept the lead of the race. Max Verstappen was cruising from P5, Pierre Gasly's engine blew up, surprise, surprise, and Ferrari did a Ferrari thing. A lot happened. And last but not least, Max Verstappen finished ahead of Lando Norris in the race, which solidified him as a dominant Formula One world champion. That is a phenomenal achievement. But going back to Vegas and its biggest flaw, ticket prices. Thankfully, in 2024, hotels and F1 organizers toned down the prices for Vegas by about 65%, mainly because no one was willing to pay €3,000 for a chair for 3 days. But if you look back at 2023, they were indeed that expensive, and there were still some expensive tickets in 2024. I checked online to see what was the cheapest ticket for the Vegas Grand Prix, and while I was browsing, I found something called Ramsey's Garage, a hospitality package where you get fancy foods, access to the pit lane, rooftop views, a 4-day hotel stay, nightclub access, and front row seats to the race. I thought this would cost around, maybe €12,000 to €15,000, which seems pretty reasonable for Vegas. But little did I know, the actual price for Ramsey's Garage was €35,000. Would I be served by Gordon Ramsay himself? Let me just list down what you could get for €35,000, a Kawasaki H2, a bike that's 75% as fast as an F1 car in a straight line, plus access to a racetrack. Or, 1,000 cardboard cutouts of Charles Leclerc, a ritual mat, and 200 scented candles, which would allow you to make unlimited prayers for Ferrari to be world champions again. So, in conclusion, F1 in the USA can pretty much be summed up as a spectacle that is sometimes good, sometimes utterly bewildering. As much as US races offer thrills and funny moments, it's hard to ignore the flaws. Therefore, let's answer the most important question: how can these tracks be made better? Well, as your professional F1 enthusiast, I've got 3 things to say. Austin, reduce the number of celebrities that go there and invite actual passionate fans. Miami, get rid of the entire stage and gimmick at this point. And Vegas, just make sure you display any of these amazing photos on the sphere. God bless America.